Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host for the Leaders with a Heart podcast. For this special episode, I have a very special guest, my new good friend, Carolyn from the UK. She's an amazing, not only well-established professional, but most importantly, she's an amazing human being, a true leader with a heart. I've had a chance to talk with her in the past few minutes, but wow, it's very obvious from the first moment you talk to her that she's a person that speaks directly from the heart. On top of that, she's an award-winning life coach, mentor, and therapist based in the UK, and a regular health and wellness writer for the Arizona Foothills Magazine, and executive contributor for Brainz magazine, just like I am as well. Carolyn, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Pleasure is all mine. So before we start, for people who don't know you, who's Carolyn?
Well, Carolyn is a very, very interesting lady. And first of all, I mean, you can actually see me on screen here. I am 61 years old. Wow. And I am a product of my business. And that for me is what sells what I do. Because people say, do you practice what you preach? Yes, I do. And here is the living proof. You know, I'm on a journey just the same as anybody else. So, you know, if they can see me doing it, they will do it. So yeah, Carolyn is a 61-year-old woman, healthy, takes care of her own health, on her own journey, and loves telling stories. I absolutely love telling stories. And as we talked earlier, you know, everything comes from the heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we start, as I said, I want to get to know the real person, have a heart-to-heart conversation. So first of all, what makes you happy?
Myself. You know, happiness comes from you. We all go through, you know, trials and tribulations and upset and all of that grief and all of those things. And they knock you back. And I've learned over the years, and my life didn't really change until I was 50. So we're talking 11 years ago. And I realized that happiness has to come from me. So it's really just getting rid of all the things that I don't want in my life. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But I am now at in the happiest place I've ever been. You know, so I make myself happy. It's down to me. It's not down to anybody else or anything else. It's down to me.
Absolutely, because a lot of people, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but something that they shouldn't do is they always look for not only for validation, but also for happiness from outside. They always look for an authority, whether it be a parent, a teacher, a boss, government, whatever. While instead, all the answers, all the happiness lies already within themselves.
Exactly. That is so true. You know, and this is where when I'm working with people and they're going through struggles in their lives, and I say, well, where do you fit in all of this? Because we tend to sort of put ourselves way at the bottom, and we give to everybody else and forget about ourselves. So people and things drain us. And so I make it very, very clear. I've had to do it for myself. As I say, I practice what I preach. Put yourself at the top and make sure you give yourself 150%. And then you've got a little bit left. That other 50, that extra 50%, you can give out to other people. But happiness it starts with you.
Absolutely. What makes you smile?
Life, because we only have one life. And, you know, if we decide to look at all the negative stuff that's going on, I'll give you a perfect example. COVID. You know, lots of things have happened to me as it's happened to other people, things that, you know, we don't want to happen. I've had to close an online business, bring it online. You know, I'm in a long distance relationship. We haven't seen each other for 15 months. And people say, Carolyn, why are you still smiling? I'm smiling because I remain positive and because I know there is an end to what is happening. Life goes on. Whatever happens, life goes on. And you've got to look beyond what is happening right now. As much as I talk about focusing on the present moment, you've also got to focus on, you know, what's happening with yourself, where you want to go, what you want to do, and just keep moving.
Perfectly said. And it comes back to what you said initially. Happiness comes from within. It's
It
not what,
does.
and just like the saying, it's not what happens, but it's how you react to what happens that
Mhm.
determines the quality of your life. That is so true.
Yeah. And I'm not somebody that's gone through, people will look at me and think I'm very confident and I'm smiling and I'm positive. But I like to also let people know I'm human. I am a human being, and I wake up in the mornings and go, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. Oh, I don't want to do this job. Oh, I don't want to speak to this person. Or I'm missing somebody, or I'm hating the COVID situation. I too wake up with those. But I have learned, and it's taken a long time, but I have learned to switch that round, turn it on its head and say, do you know something? Let me pull a positive from this.
Perfect. Beautiful. Exactly. What makes you sad and angry?
That is a good one, because I had many, many years of being sad and angry. And I lost my father.
Sorry to
When
hear
I was
that.
okay. I lost my father when I was 50, and I lost my mum when I was 21.
Wow. Sorry to
And
hear
I've
that.
gone through many, many years. That's what I've got stories. I've got lots of stories. But I've gone through all the trials and tribulations and the tears and the anger, and bringing my children up without having a mum. For a female, bringing a child up without having a mother around is quite difficult, and having no close family. And I've had sad times. And now I've thought, I'm not having those sad times, because again, it starts with you. Sadness brings on stress, anxiety, depression, illness, all of those things. And so what used to make me sad was people not doing what I expected, people not living up to my standards, people not respecting my values and my morals and all of those things. And I've had to learn that I can't change those people. The only person I can change is me.
Exactly.
And so those people who are dumping their sadness and their anger and their frustrations, all I would do is would retaliate. And a lot of people do things to get a reaction, and they would get the reaction from me. So that's what used to make me sad. Now I don't allow those things to happen.
Beautiful. Okay, that was perfect. So, what scares you?
Oh, what scares me? Let me think. Oh, that is a difficult one. What scares me? Do you know, I have to say this. I think that I have this big protective bubble around me. And I
Hmm?
feel this invisible bubble, I've always thought of this. I have this big invisible bubble around me, and nothing can get in. That is where I have learned that is wrong, but that's how that's not real. That's just my imagination, and I am very vulnerable, as is everybody else. So really, I think what scares me, nothing comes to mind what scares me, but I suppose one of the biggest, there is something. One of the biggest things is I am 61. My fiance is 62. There is 5,000 miles between us. There is a big restriction on travel between the UK and the US. And time is of the essence. We are both fit and well. And I think the thing that probably scares me right now is that something may happen to either one of us before we can actually get together. That is probably what scares me right now.
Yes, I can understand. And being engaged at 61, at 60, that's probably the best time, because that's when you can really enjoy
Yeah.
and and have fulfillment together.
Yeah. And that's the thing, we want to be together. And you hear of people sort of with COVID, they're in the 40s, they're in the 50s, something happens. And I just don't want that to happen to either to us. We've found out ourselves in each other, and we just want to now be together and enjoy the next, hopefully 30 years together. So that is probably the thing that scares me the most.
I can understand. Yes, absolutely. Especially now at this age, both people are in a state of maturity that maybe we don't have when we're younger. That
Mhm.
and that provides us with much more fulfillment, and it's more real, much more meaningful.
Yeah.
So so yeah. All right, cool. That's beautifully said. Now let me ask you some fun before we get into the professional aspect. I want to ask you some fun question. You know, when we grew up with as kids, especially in primary school and middle school, everybody asks us whether it's parents, teachers, or relatives or friends. So, Carolyn, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer back then?
That's so easy. That is so easy. And I've done both. I want to be a mummy and a nurse.
Oh
That's
wow,
what I wanted to be. Anybody would ask me, I wanted to be a mummy and a nurse.
it's beautiful.
And, you know, that stayed with me for a long, long time. And yes, I've become a mummy. And yes, I trained as a nurse.
Wonderful. When you were in school, what was your favorite subject?
PE, sport.
Wow. Which sport in particular?
I was a very good 100-meter sprinter. I'm
Wow.
very good at high jump and long jump. So those were
Wow.
the things I enjoyed. And whenever there was a, you know, training for sports events, oh, I was quite happy to get out of the classroom and go and get on with it. Hence, I qualified in my mid-30s as a sports remedial therapist.
Wow. And you worked with athletes? With what kind of professional athletes did you work with?
Yeah, I've worked with professional athletes. I've worked with professional Premiership football teams.
Wow.
I've worked with Super League rugby. I've worked. I've been to Wembley. I've been to Wembley twice. One for the playoffs and one for the Challenge Cup in rugby league. I've worked with ice hockey players,
Wow.
basketball players, professional golfers, professional dancers from Strictly Come Dancing and from X Factor when they were on tour. I've worked with actors and actresses from the West End and Broadway, and the list goes on.
Which ones would you say among all these athletes were your favorite to work with?
That's a question I get asked all the time. When they compare rugby and football, and for those of you that are in the States or elsewhere, football is soccer. And they all said, oh, I bet it's better to work with the rugby. It was better to work. I enjoyed working more with the football or the soccer, simply because people say, oh, well, they're wimps, they get injured and this, that, and the other. I said, no, they're smart. They are very, very smart. So
Hmm.
they get a niggle and they know that it's time to come off the field and they will deal with it. Whereas rugby players will just keep going until they can't go anymore.
I
Um,
know.
so football, or as I say, soccer if you're in another
Hmm.
country. So football is where I really, really enjoyed my time. And if a soccer team came to me now and said, would you come and work for us? As much as I've retired with hands-on, and if I still was doing it, that is where I would go. I also enjoyed working with the dancers from Strictly Come Dancing. I worked with two professional dancers from Strictly
Hmm.
Come Dancing, and they would come to my therapy room. Oh, and the Northern Ballet as well. I worked with a principal dancer from the Northern Ballet. I enjoyed all of that. But football, out of the two, football and rugby, it would have been football.
I think once you move to the US, I think you could have some really interesting opportunities working with professional football teams, soccer teams in the US because it's not as developed as in Europe and the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
also because they can use a lot of you, I mean, your wealth of knowledge and wisdom and experience, they can definitely benefit from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is, you know, as much as I've now come online and the hands-on stuff doesn't happen,
Mhm.
you know, dealing with injuries, I also found as coaching that, you know, when a player's having a bad time, it's not about sorting out injuries they've got on hamstrings or calves or lower back or shoulders or fingers or whatever. It was what words came out of your mouth, you
Absolutely,
know,
yeah.
to sort of encourage them to go out there and do the best that they can do. And So when I move over to the US, I'd love to get more involved again with the sports, but I think more on the coaching side, whereas sort of helping them move towards their goals and what they want to achieve.
Awesome. Now, looking back at your path in your life so far, how did you, transitioning from your school years, how did you end up on the path that you are in right now? Was that a natural progression, or was that you went in one path and something made you change to that? So what was your path like?
It was a natural progression. And I never realized it was a natural progression until, as I say, in this last 10 years or so. When I look at my own life, I've had to be strong. I've had to be strong, you know, physically and emotionally. I've had to be strong for many, many reasons. And I think, sorry, can we pause? Because the dogs are barking. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I think, you know, I transitioned naturally. I've always had to be a very, very strong person, you know, emotionally and physically. And, you know, and dealing with all of the issues that I've had to deal with growing up and as an adult, that it has just come naturally. And I remember my very, very first session. I was training as a nurse and it was my first day on the ward. So, you know, I'm this shy, and believe it or not, I was shy back then. And I walked on the ward and I remember the sister saying to me, "Nurse, can you go and sit at the side of the bed and sit with this patient and do their observations? She is end of life and her husband's sitting with her." So I'm like, okay. So, you know, you're enthusiastic, you're motivated and everything else. And he just said, "Nurse, I'm just going to go for a coffee." I went, okay. And says, "I'll wait here." So when he'd gone for his coffee, his wife passed away.
Oh no.
His wife passed away. And I was sat there and, you know, obviously checking her observations and had to get the sister to say, you know, I can't, she's not breathing, you know, I can't find a
Oh
pulse.
no.
So, yeah, she'd passed away. So the sister said to me, "Okay, nurse, we have to now go and talk to the relative." So she took me to the day room and he came back and she says, "The only thing I want you to do is remain positive." So I said, okay. So he said, "Did she say anything when she passed away?" I said, "Yeah, she said that she loved you. And she also said, you know, I want you to enjoy your life and move on with the things that you have to do." And the sister looked at me, you know, in sheer horror, as if to say, "Nurse, what are you saying?" And then he said, "Thank you, nurse." And he obviously left. And the sister looked at me and she went, "I never expected that to come out of your mouth, nurse." She goes, "Well done." She says, "Now go in my office and go and have a good cry." At the time, I didn't know, you know, what I was doing. It's only when now I look back and go, that must have been my very first coaching session. Giving somebody
Yes.
that little bit of positivity, that little bit of encouragement to say, you know, the person that's just passed loves you. They haven't left you. You also have a life to live. So go out there, keep putting one foot in front of the other and do what you have to do. Go and enjoy life. And so it's been a natural progression and it's just built over time. Yes, I did my qualification. You know, I certified as a life coach in 2004 because I thought I needed that piece of paper. I thought I needed that piece of paper to say, "Hey, I'm a life coach." I've realized I've never needed that piece of paper because it's something I naturally do and it comes from deep within.
We're born with that. That's a natural innate skill that each of us has. Some of us do and some of us do not tap into it, but we all have that.
Yeah. And, you know, when people used to come for their sports therapy treatment, they would have a consultation and, you know, we would sit there and we just generally go through their medical history and all of that sort of stuff. And then we'd do the hands-on therapist because I always wanted to find the source. I wanted to know what was causing the injury, what was causing the pain. That's coaching. That is
Oh, yes,
coaching.
for sure.
And then they would leave, and then they come back a few weeks later to say, thank you so much for what you've done, but I've come because you made my life better by things that you
Wow.
said. And I goes, well, I've not done anything. They go, but you have. So coaching is natural.
Yes, absolutely. Because we're all, in a way, a kind of, cheerleader for each other. And that's
Yeah.
what most people need, just some encouragement, some reinforcement.
Mhm.
And just as I said earlier, it's just about inspiring more than, because when you inspire someone, it's doing as much, if not more than helping. Because what people need is to be inspired, to start believing in themselves. And once they do that, then
Yeah.
they can fly to the height that they're meant to be and to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And I do have a Facebook group that I started at the beginning of COVID,
Hmm.
and it's called Inspiration for a Better Life.
Wow, I love that.
And I do a live video chat every Monday through to Friday at 7 p.m. That's UK time. I do that all the time. And really, people come on there, they've just lost somebody, they've had an argument with the partner, they've fallen out with the children, they've had a bad day at work, they're just lost within themselves, they don't know where to go, they don't know how to start. Carolyn comes on, and they'll be on for an hour, and they just say, thank you, Carolyn, you've really made my day so much better, and now I know where I'm going and what I'm doing.
And that's the biggest and most fulfilling reward that we can get, is just like I keep on saying, the most fulfilling thing in the world is when you help someone that has nothing to give you but the gratitude in their eyes.
Mhm.
That's the most powerful, most touching. It even, I get goosebumps when I talk about this. It's almost like, in a way, an orgasm for the soul, because it touches you at your deepest of your
Yeah,
being.
yeah. I mean, the other day I just had a lady that came on, she just jumped on and she just said, I've just lost my friend 2 months ago.
Oh no.
She says, my next door, it was a next door neighbour. She says, and we're sat here. She said, me and her two daughters are sat here listening to you.
Hmm.
So I switched my life to really zone in on giving them some guidance and support and some inspiration, and she said, we're all sat here crying, Carolyn. She's you saying the most loveliest words. She then came on the next day. She says, thank you so much. That has really helped. She says, it's allowed the girls, and I think there were 20, something like 20 and 22. She says, you've really given the girls, something to look at, and they are happy now and ready to move forward. And sometimes it only takes a word, sometimes it only takes a sentence, and sometimes it just takes a smile.
Absolutely. I was just, before we had a podcast, another wonderful lady from the UK as well, and she was saying, all we need is, at times, is just one word, just an
Yeah.
encouragement. People know what they need to do. It's just that they just lack this self-belief at times, and all they need is just a little push to keep to get going. And that's
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
And I'm a great believer in and work on a day-to-day basis with a journal. I'm a great journaler, because that allows you to solidify your goals. It allows you to solidify your thoughts.
Hmm.
I rate myself on a day-to-day basis, my
Wow.
happiness, my health, my productivity, my stress. So I rate myself every single evening at the end of the day as to how I've been.
How would you rate today?
Today, I'm very, very happy. So, I'm going to go an 8 or a 9 for my happiness, for my health. That's an 8 or a 9. I'm up there. I never give myself a full 10, because there's
No.
always something to work on. If you give yourself a 10, then it's like, where do you go from there? So I always give myself an 8 or a 9. So I've still got something to work towards. And my productivity is an 8 or a 9 today. My stress is a 2. I like to keep that nice and low. If my stress starts going up, 3, 4, 5, then we've got an issue and it's time to start dealing with that. So I keep my stress levels low.
Sure.
But yeah, I rate myself every day.
Even though you said you don't give yourself a 10, so what would a day that is a 10 look like?
What does a 10 look like? I'll tell you when I get there.
Okay, please let me know. Yes.
I'll tell you when I get there. And I think, I said to myself, oh, a 10 is when I get to Phoenix and I've got married to my fiance and I get to Phoenix. That could be a 10, but when I get there, I've still got work to do. There's still things I want to do. So where do you go from a 10? Because when you're up there, you've got to stay up there, and that's harder than getting there. So, but there's things I want to do. I want to be a radio presenter. I want to be a TV presenter. I want to be on stage talking, telling the stories, supporting hundreds and thousands of people if I can. So yeah, I'm not at a 10 yet.
So there's one keyword that you've been mentioning, not just you, but most people, is story. We all have a lot of stories to tell, but I'm sure you've heard this, the saying that says, change your story, change your life. I'm sure along your life, looking back at your life, there must have been times that you had to change your story, especially the story you tell yourself. We tell each of us tell ourselves in our mind on a daily basis, all the time. So looking back at your life, did you have to change your story in order to get to the next level? And if yes, how did you do it?
Yes, I did. I think from the age of 19, I always wanted to go to where my father was from, which is Belize, Central America.
Wow.
My grandparents were still alive. I'd never met my grandparents. I used to write to my grandmother all the time, and she would write back and check that I was going to church and I was doing the things I was supposed to be doing. And when I got to 19, I left home at 19 to come and do my nurse training. And I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going to go. And my dad said, no, you're not going, because at that time there was a lot of problems between Belize and Guatemala. And he says, no, I've lost too many friends. I don't want you going out there. And so, that was one thing that I always wanted to do. And then that story or that thought and that goal sort of got left behind because things take over in your life. You meet someone, you settle down, you have children, and these goals sort of sit at the back of the brain. And then my dad got taken ill in 2009. He had one brother left in Belize, one. And that story that I had got about me going and all these plans I was going to do came to the forefront. It's time to switch it up. It's time to change. It's time to do what is right for me and change the story, change the path. And so I actually said to my dad, I asked him for, because I also wanted my Belize passport, my papers and all of this. And I asked him for his passport and his birth certificate. He said no, because he was adamant I wasn't going, absolutely adamant. Anyway, as I say, he was in hospital and I just made the decision that I was going to go. And I did go. I went for a week. I think it was a week, 2 weeks, I can't remember. Found his brother, met all my family, came back. And the day I got back, well, whilst we were in Belize, my cousin said, oh, shall we ring Uncle? Me being sort of super excited, I went, yeah, I got worst thing I could have done. Worst thing, because my dad deteriorated after that. Knowing that I had moved to Belize, gone to Belize. So when I came back, the doctor said, Carolyn, I think you need to come up. Your dad's not got long left. So I went up to see him. When I walked into the ward, he said, Carolyn, why are you here? I says, why shouldn't I be here? He says, I never thought I'd see you again. He said, I thought when you went there, you'd never come back. And I said, well, I'm back and I'm here. I says, and I've also found your brother. And from that moment, that is really where my story changed, because I was very much, do as you're told, don't backchat. Your parents are always right, as old as I was. And I had to change the story and switch it around and put me before anything else. And at that point, my dad died about 3 days later.
Sorry to hear that,
Um,
yeah.
but I also found that my dad always wanted to go back to Belize. So we took his ashes back to Belize. He
Oh,
wanted
wow.
to go back home. And, you know, my story was going one way. I was going to be a nurse. I was going to work my way up the nurse, you know, the rankings in the nursing industry. My dad had got these visions of, you know, me marrying a doctor and living this life. That wasn't my life. That was somebody else's life. And it's only when I took the reins, and said, you know, it's time for me. The story has to change.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I may be rebellious, as much as I'm going against what my father has said, I have to do it. Believe you me, it was a scary decision to make. I was stepping way out of my comfort zone. I was going against the grain. I was doing something that I was told, you will never ever do this because I'm telling you, you won't do it. And then I changed, as I say, the story changed. When I look back, the changing the story has made me who I am today.
Lovely,
But it
beautiful.
took me until I was 50 years old.
You know, it's never too late. I had an amazing gentleman on my podcast about 2 weeks ago from Australia. He has so far, one of the most incredible, most inspiring stories is that he grew up in a fairly well-off family. His father was very successful, but he was narcissistic. Anytime he tried to do anything, he was always told, no, you're not good enough. I was way better than you when I was your age. Always putting him down,
Mm.
always putting him down. And that followed him all his life up until, just like you said, up into his 50s.
Yeah.
Went through some very, very difficult challenges. He went through one divorce, two suicide attempts, one heart attack, and finally, when he was recovering from a heart attack, that he said, "Enough of that. Screw this. I need to move on."
Yeah.
And he changed completely. He changed course completely, and he, he dropped everything, and he said. He said he's going to do something he's never done, which is he wants to write a book. And that's someone that's never written a book. Now he's on a mission to uh, to inspire 1 billion children around the world to feel self belief in themselves. Because he said, I wish I had this kind of book when I was growing up, to have
Mhm.
self belief in myself, because I always had this chronic lack of self belief that has plagued me all my life, and I don't want any other kid from now on to go through what I went through. So his story was absolutely incredibly inspiring, and just reminds me of that.
Mhm.
It's never too late. It's never too
Yeah.
late.
You know, your parents have a job to do, they have a role to play. Never ever disrespect your parents. I'm a parent myself now. Never ever disrespect your parent, because you wouldn't be here without your parents.
Absolutely.
But my father used to have a saying, your children get to 18, and I know sort of in other countries it's 21, but here in the UK, your children get to 18, they find their wings and they fly. Your job as a parent is to be there when everything crumbles, to pick up the pieces and stand them back up on their own 2 feet. But so I got to 18, 19, I'm thinking I'm ready to fly, but I was still sort of held back by my father's thinking, my father's discipline, my father's sort of, you know, rejections and this sort of thing. And I love my father dearly and I miss him dearly, but I had to switch it around for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I
Tell me a
think
little.
so I think the thing is, you know, this is why I do what I do, because I want people, just like the gentleman you talked about, is to instill self-belief and self-motivation in other people.
And that's the most important thing, is because people, they know they can do it, but they feel they're not good enough, or they lack the self-belief, and all they need is just an outside voice to
Mhm.
reinforce their belief in themselves. That's all they need. They don't need miracles. They don't need someone to hold their hands. Most people are smart enough, intelligent enough, and as an adult they can function, but all they need is just that little
Mhm.
push in the right direction.
Yeah. And it's just getting over, I call it getting over that hump. You know, that hump looks huge. It looks like a brick wall. It looks like you'll never be able to climb it. You'll never be able to get over it. that if somebody can walk with you and hold your hand through that phase, and that's where I walk with my clients on their journey, because I'm also on the journey. You will get over that hump. When you fall, I am there to pick you up.
Absolutely. Life is a journey, and the more you can join us, just like the saying says, the more the merrier. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I want to know is, what has been so far your greatest, most inspirational example of transformation of someone that you've coached and helped?
Ooh. I've got a lady that I'm working with at this current time, and I think this has to be a biggie for me, or a biggie for her, to be fair. And she actually has been going to bereavement support for 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. And she came to me, she joined my live, and she just messaged me, she says, Carolyn, I need you to help me. So I was like, okay. We had one session, and I work a little bit differently to how a lot of coaches work. And it's only when you work with me that you see how different I work. On paper, it probably all looks the same, but there's something that I have that I know a lot of coaches don't have, and it's reading between the lines, and it's seeing beyond what you are saying to me. I don't know where it comes from. It's a skill that I have. Even if you write a sentence and the way it's written, I can read between the words and pick out what you're not saying. And I did this with this lady, and we were doing, a one-to-one. She's in the States, I'm here. And I just said something, and she just went, whoa, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. It was a real poignant moment. Then she decided she wanted to wait a month before she came back for coaching. And she messaged me, she says, Carolyn, I have something to tell you. She said, I've stopped going to the bereavement support group. I was a bit horrified, thinking, you don't just stop. It's a slow process. And when we spoke, she said, you said something. She says that nobody, I've had therapists before and stuff. She says, nobody has ever, I've had doctors, I've had psychotherapists, I've had, all those. She says, and nobody said what you said. She said, but I've stopped going. She says, and I said to them, I'm not coming anymore. She says, some accepted it, some got upset, some got angry. And they said, you've got colour in your cheeks. You're standing upright. What's changed? Who's your therapist? We want that therapist. She says, I don't have a therapist. She says, I have a coach. And she says, she's absolutely amazing. This woman now has stopped going to the bereavement support for 30 years and is now dealing with, or getting better at dealing with the passing of her daughter when she was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
It's still slow steps, but the fact that she's now not going there anymore. The other thing is, she's always wanted to write her story.
Wow.
She was always told, this is the same lady, always told, that, again, she's not good enough, she can't do it. Why do you want to do that? She's now near enough my age. And after the first session, she wrote me the first chapter of her book.
Wonderful.
So that for me was that in itself, and that's just an individual. There's lots of group work you can do, and but to be able to see one individual change just by one session, just by being able to connect with me, just by, being open and trusting, that is like winning the lottery.
Absolutely. It's a perfect segue to what I wanted to cover next, which is basically talking about a cause, what we're passionate about. And as I mentioned to you earlier, not any single individual can change the world individually, but if each and every single one of us can do something to help just one person, inspire just one person, give them that push to get, as you said, over the hump, and then they go on and inspire another person, and so on and so forth. Before long, we have a global community of
Mhm.
enlightened, entrepreneurs, and before long, we can together as a collective group, we can change the world. We can change the vibration of the world together, make it more positive, and that's right now what the world needs more than ever. Speaking of that, and this is the theme of this podcast, Eat with the Heart. What would you say is what cause are you most passionate about?
What cause with regards to?
To either contributing and helping. Like for example, as I mentioned to you earlier, for me, I'm launching a physical product, and for each unit I sell, I will donate a pair of eyeglasses to someone in need because
Mhm.
I've had problem with my eyes ever since I was a kid, and that's something that I'm passionate about. I want to help people see clearly, see better. Like for you, what cause are you most passionate about?
What cause? I actually also have a charitable organisation
Wow,
for Belize youth. It's called Belize Youth Support. That's put on the back burner for now because I'm concentrating on getting my online
what is
business.
it called? What is it called?
It's
Sorry.
called Belize Youth Support Network. And I set
Wonderful,
that up. I set that up when my father passed away. That was my way of giving back to Belize, to sort of say thank
wonderful.
you for giving us a great man. There's a story. There's a great story about my dad as well, and that's probably another conversation at another time. So for me, it's about the cause. For me, is supporting young people and families to set their goals, to go out and achieve what they want to achieve, and never, ever, ever let anything or anyone hold you back. And out in Belize, there are the crime rate and the drug trafficking and the child trafficking is huge in Belize. People have a life. You're put on this earth to live your life and find your purpose. And for
Mhm.
me, that's where my cause lies. It's time to find your purpose. It's time to find who you are. It's time to stand up and say, I have a voice. This is who I am. This is who I want to be. And this is where I'm going.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I read a quote a long time ago that really stood out with me. And yesterday I had a podcast with, what was it? No, on Saturday I had a podcast with an amazing lady in the Philippines, and she said something similar. Said the original quote is, "The two most important dates in our lives are one, when we were born, and second, when we find out why we are here." And then she added something else. She said, there are four dates, four steps that are very important in our lives: when we are born, when we die, which is number four. Number two is when we find out why we are here. And number three is when we realize that we have achieved why we are here for.
Yeah, yeah. And I've gone through that myself. It's like now I actually sit here and go, and it was only when I came online and set my business up online, and I've been doing it for years. I go, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. All these other things, and I'll sit here and say and people go, Carolyn, what are you talking about? Because I go, I never feel like I've achieved things. And they go, but you've given birth to two beautiful children, you
That's a big
know,
achievement, yeah.
yeah. Or, Carolyn, you've worked in professional sport. Carolyn, you've achieved this, you've achieved that. But for me, there were half finished achievements. And that's because I'm a person that is always driving forward, always pushing to the next level. And it's only when I came online, brought all of my business online and put the sports therapy to the back and brought the coaching to the front and actually went, this is it. This is what my purpose in life is. This is the piece of the jigsaw that's been missing from it all. Put that piece of the jigsaw and everything connects. So the nursing, the fitness, because I was a fitness instructor, being a mom, the relationship breakups, the grieving, the divorce, all of these things that seemed negative at the time have all come together and gone, this is it. This is why I've gone through everything I've gone through. This is what's made me who I am today. This is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. But, you know, you don't wake up knowing what your purpose is. It's a journey, it's a progress. And when you get there, it's like, okay, I've gone up that ladder. You know, I'm halfway up that ladder now. Now I've got to climb the rest of the ladder to get to where I want to go, because now I know where I'm going.
I agree with that. It's just like you said, you know, you don't wake up at it. It's a progression. It's like, you know,
Mm.
at the right time, the universe and God, you know, brings the people that we need to in our lives. The gives us the clues, shows us what we are meant to be in forms of hunches, intuition, and just people that just magically appear.
Mhm.
Like, you know, I was living, you know, I said I'm a nomad. I lived in 10 countries, 4 continents. And before that, I was living in Hong Kong and China and the Philippines and Brazil. And I grew up in France and Canada and all that. So I came back at the start of the pandemic last year from Hong Kong. I came in Toronto at home, and I started wondering what the hell I'm going to do now. So, and then I said, okay, what do I want to do most? Which is what I enjoyed the most is helping people. So I said, wow, this is now for me the time to actually do what I really wanted to do. Now that I'm finally in a position to do something about it, let me do it. And that's when I started this podcast. The idea first came back around March of last year, and then I only took action on the podcast around October of last year. And then I've been wanting to start a business. It's actually a business with a cause, and that's when about a year ago last summer I started having this thought and this conversation with people to launch a product with a heart, and for each unit sold I would be giving a pair of eyeglasses. So at the right time, everything comes in front of you at the right time. Just like the saying, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher magically shows up.
Yeah. And, you know, from coming online
Hmm.
and having and revamping, you know, my website and changing the name, you know, the name, my business is now me. I am the
Exactly.
product. I am the product of my business, you know. And I sit here when I talk to people, I talk from the heart, I talk from the soul, you know, this is real and
Hmm.
I'm real. And you can touch me and you can, you know, and see the journey I've come along. You know, I've walked and I'm still walking. But it's only when that change happened that I went, wow, I've actually achieved so much. And the opportunities that are now coming my way, you know, there's a potential of me starting a radio show on health and wellness.
Please do. The sooner is
Well,
the better.
Well, you know, I've been asked to do it, so we're just waiting now to see how it all materializes. But this is something I've wanted to do, and you heard me say it earlier. I want to be a TV presenter, I want to be a radio presenter, or I want to stand on stage and talk to hundreds and thousands of people, not just women, men, because men need to start speaking up. Men need to realize that, you know, you need to let out what's holding you back. It doesn't make you less of a man by opening up. It doesn't make you less of a man by showing your emotions. Because a lot of men grow up and they're not, they tell, don't show your emotions, that's not manly. But you know, when you do, you'll be amazed at how much better you feel and how how you can then start to pave your own way, knowing that you don't have to be tough all the time. You're a human being. But women will open up quite happily. Men hold it all in. So I would love to get on a stage and talk to hundreds and thousands of men and women alike, because there's no difference. You're a human being.
Absolutely. Looking back at your experience all these years, what would you say was the number one thing that is holding people back from achieving their goals and dreams?
I think the one thing that's holding people back is they have goals floating around in midair. They have these goals, these things they want to do. They don't know how to solidify them. They don't know how to plant them. They don't know how to, give them a firm base. A goal doesn't move, you move, and I think that's what holds people back, because they say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. They don't know where to start. they don't think they're good enough. They don't think they can achieve it. They think somebody is better than them. They think that, you know, I haven't got the finances to do it. I haven't got the contacts to do it. All those things come when you start. You know, the main thing is starting. And I think that's what holds people back. You know, they need to plant their goals. They need to plant their passions, their thoughts, their goals, give them a firm standing, and then say, okay, I'm ready. And when you're ready and you want it badly enough, it will happen.
Absolutely. And how much would you say the lack of focus and this being bombarded with all kinds of opportunities and the shiny syndrome is playing a role in that?
Can you just repeat that, please?
So how much in people not being able to go after their dreams? You said first is lack of belief, and second, what I want to know is how much is the lack of focus, because people want to do this and this, but not being able to focus on one thing
I
because
think,
they're being always, you know, bombarded with, hey, do this, do that, do that.
yeah,
There's always the shiny cinema object around them.
yeah. Yeah, and I have a saying, you know, whenever I'm doing a talk, whether it be on Zoom, whether it be on my Facebook group or wherever it is, I always say, stop getting distracted by the shiny things, because they look shiny, but when they take the mask off, they are ugly, and they pull you off your course. Your focus, get your blinkers on, you're going forward. It doesn't mean to say that your road is a straight road. No road's a straight road, and you are going to trip, you are going to fall, you are going to slip, all of those things. But you know, when you're walking along, don't turn to the right and go, oh, well, that looks nice over there. Stop being distracted, because the shiny thing's job is to pull you away, and they'll keep pulling you away because it's getting shinier and shinier. And then when it removes its mask, when it removes this outer being, it's horrific. It's destruction. And then you're too far away from your own path to be able to get back. So then you're stumbling and falling, trying to find ways to get back. It's a bit like Hansel and Gretel. You're going out into the woods, you know, and unless you're going to leave a trail behind you, then you're never going to get back. And so for me, I think that's the lack of, people do not focus on where they want to go. They focus on where they've been. They focus on where their friends or their family are going. They focus on somebody that's made it and get very envious and jealous and think that they cannot achieve it. Because for some reason, how has Oprah Winfrey got to where Oprah Winfrey is? I'll never be like Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey has a story. Oprah Winfrey has had a horrendous life. All she's done is she stayed focused on where she's going. She may have got distracted now and again, but she's come back and she's stayed focused. And, you know, you are as good as anybody up there. Anybody who's made it, you are as good. You may be a little bit behind them, but keep going. So the lack of focus is people get too distracted. They're too busy listening to what other people have to say. They're too busy being enticed with what people are asking them to do. They, you know, their own goals get forgotten about because they're too busy caring for other people. And I'm not saying you don't care for other people, but first and foremost, you care about yourself.
Absolutely. You know, it's so true. It's just a matter of, you know, just having one. I think it comes down to having a purpose. If you have a purpose, it's a lot easier to stay on course, to stay focused, as opposed to just, you know, chasing money or material things. Because even if you reach those, then once you get them, you will be asking, is all there is to it? You'll feel empty. You will be looking for the next thrill, and just even if you get the nicest material thing, after it's just like a toy, after a week or two, you're gonna get tired of it. You say, what's next?
Yeah, and this is why I say when I rate myself, I never give myself a 10. Because when you get there, where do you go from there? You know, so you've always got to have something to strive for, but that goal, don't make your goal too far in the distance. You know, once you've hit that goal, you can make another goal. And some people do that. Oh, I've got a 20, 30-year goal. No, you don't have a 20, 30-year goal. You may have a 12-month goal. You may have a 24-month goal. Once you hit that, then you'll add to it, because you will get distracted along the way.
Absolutely. See, I love this kind of conversation, especially with you, because we can have a real meaningful conversation, especially heart to heart, about something that can really has affected us, helping us, and also can help others, because it's all about inspiring others. Before we can keep on going for hours and hours, because you're an amazing human being.
Can I just say something? Can I just say something to you? And to the people who are listening, when you look at these big celebrities, these big achievers, these billionaires, these trillionaires, when you look at those, they all started small.
Absolutely.
They all started at the beginning, and they had to refocus their thoughts. They had to believe in themselves. And you have the capability and the ability to do exactly what they have done.
Beautifully said. I just remembered a quote that said, "The difference between a billionaire and you is the degree of your focus."
Yeah. I'm very optimistic about where my life is going. I know I'm going to be on a stage. I know I'm going to be on a radio show. As I say, I'd love to be on the TV, and I really truly believe that this will happen. I've got a good future ahead of me, and that's because I believe it. And it's all right about having a desire. It's all right about having a dream, but be certain in what you do. Be certain. Don't just desire it. Don't just dream it. Be certain. You say to yourself, I am going to do it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we can keep on going for hours, but let me ask you now some fun questions. So imagine now that you have your TV show, your radio show, whatever, and now the guest you have is the most special person in the world, which is yourself. What would be the first question you'll ask yourself?
Where are you right now in your life? That would be the first question I would ask. Where are you right now? Because I think a lot of people don't know where they are right now. And that's all about goal setting, because you can't set a goal if you don't know where you are right now. So that would be the first question. Where are you right now in your life?
Absolutely. That is so true. If you could meet your 18-year-old self with what you know now, what would be the number one piece of advice you would give to yourself?
Start today. That is the one. Start today. I look and I think, crikey, I'm 61 years old. I've got 30 years left. I want to keep going until I can't go anymore. But, I should have done this years ago. I should have done this, instead of being a nurse and those sort of things from when I was younger, I should have gone out and done, pursued maybe TV or radio or something. Maybe I should have pursued that. But then I look at it again and I think, maybe I wasn't ready. That wasn't my time. This is my time. So I would say to my younger self, go with what's in your heart. Go with what's in your soul. Set your goal and just keep going.
Beautiful. Now let's continue with that radio show. Who would be, imagine you get your contract for the TV show. Who would be the first person who would like to bring on as a guest to on your show to interview?
Well, there's a couple. I am a great fan of, and it would be a coach. I'm a great fan of Stéphane Labossiere. He is a life coach and a relationship coach. I think I follow everything he's done. I've read his books, and there's a book called The Man. In fact, I've got it here. That one, the man God has for you. And it talks about the 7 traits of a man, and it's not about finding your relationship. It makes you look at yourself and listen to the mistakes that you are making within yourself. So I would love to have Stéphane Labossiere on my show.
Wow. Amazing. I haven't heard about him, but I will definitely do some research on him. What would be your dream guest? Can be anyone. Don't hold back.
I think my dream guest my favorite artist, music artist, is Babyface. Kenny Edmonds. He, great producer, great singer. He's written songs and produced songs for some of the biggest artists out there. All Boys to Men songs he's written, and I have liked Babyface since we're now 2021. I've liked Babyface since 1985.
Oh wow!
So before that it was Donny Osmond, but I've moved on. I've grown up and moved on. So yeah, Babyface would have to be one of my guests.
Awesome.
And again, I would want to know how he's achieved what he's achieved. If I can get my jaw off the floor.
You shall get it, yes. Now imagine now that you have a time machine. You can choose any period in time, whether in the past and the future, to go. Where would you go and why?
Do you know, I'd like to go back to where ladies wore the bustles and the big dresses, and I'm talking about the Victorian times and things like that. Where ladies were ladies. Oh, my father brought me up to be a lady. I was sent for deportment lessons, not to go and do modeling or anything, but to make sure that I sat upright, that I presented myself correctly. My dad always used to say, if you ever meet the Queen, I want to make sure that you meet the Queen and present yourself as you are supposed to present yourself, or any of the royal family. And so I'd like to go back when ladies were ladies. Now, there's pros and cons going back to those days. I just want the nice bits. I like men to be men, and I like ladies to be ladies. And that's beautiful. That's just who I am.
That's beautiful. That's lovely. I heard that there's a resurgence of that. A lot of people want to get to learn that. There might be an opportunity for you there to go into teaching, coaching people how to behave like a lady and a man as a gentleman.
Maybe that's a good point. I've never even actually thought of that, but that would be nice. I do think, time has moved on. Yes, I had a very disciplined upbringing, and at the time I didn't like it. I would, deep inside, I would think, I don't like my upbringing, and I would sit and say I didn't like my upbringing. Now, as a mom, as a more mature woman, I thank my dad. I thank, and you don't hear me talk a lot about my mum because my mum died when I was 21. But my mum was the most elegant woman. She was so elegant, and and when she was married to my dad, my dad was all about how you dressed, how you stood, how you stand, and all of that. And yeah, that would be great, actually.
Especially in the US, once you go there as a fine lady from the UK, I think a lot of people would be very open and very receptive to that, to learning from a real, English woman, how to behave like a proper lady.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I can slump like the rest of them.
We all can.
I can, but when I'm out there and presenting myself, I know how to do it, and it's not an effort. Whereas a lot of women would go, oh, that's too much like hard work, going out and, walking to. I mean, my son, I remember once I was out in a shopping mall and my son and my daughter were behind me and said, Mum, you walk around this shopping mall as if you own it. Beautiful. That is called allowing your inner sunshine to glow. Okay, what's on the outside is a mask. Allow the inside to come out and shine and glow and be the person that you are meant to be. And it's not about the clothes you wear, the money you have in your purse, the car you drive, the house you live in. It's about stand tall, let everybody know that you are here. But one thing I say to everybody, you don't have to be arrogant with it.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. There's a way to be confident without being arrogant.
Exactly.
Confident and classy.
I'd love to teach that.
Seriously, look into that. There's actually a a guy, I believe is either German or Austrian, was teaching that men out to be gentlemen. He still dresses like wearing the hat and three-piece suit, just
Okay.
like, and his channel is called the Gentleman's Gazette. I'll
Gentlemen.
Gazette on YouTube. Very charming guy. I follow him as well because I like to,
Hmm.
to work on my sense of fashion and all that. And
And I think as you get older, it's
mhm.
very quick to let yourself go and just slip. You get to 50s and 60s and you think, well, that's it, life's over. Hey, life isn't
No,
over. Life is just beginning.
absolutely, because you have all this wisdom and all these experiences to draw from, that you didn't have when you were younger.
Yeah,
It all
yeah.
starts with proper nutrition and regular exercises. So
It starts with you. And
exactly.
one of the quotes, and if you go on my website, you will see it. It's there in big letters, and it says, "There's only one person that can change your life, you. You decide who you want to be. Every choice you make, every decision you make sure it's made to enhance your life, not someone else's."
And there's just to add to what you said, there's only one person who can stop you. Guess who it is?
It's
It's
just,
yourself.
yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. Fabulous. One last question in that field was, imagine now that you were given a choice of being blessed with any superpower for the rest of your life, but only one. Which would it be and why? Would it be flying? Would it be breathing underwater? Would it be reading people's mind? Transport, teleportation, time travel,
No, I think it'd be
anything?
teleportation because I'd like to be, if somebody needs me, I'd like to be able to teleport myself there. At the
Absolutely.
moment, I would like to teleport myself to Phoenix. So I think it would have to be that one. I wouldn't want to read somebody's mind
No.
because I don't want to know what's going on in there. I need them to tell me. Swim on the whole, being able to swim underwater. No, I'm scared of water. No.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah, teleportation, I think. So when
Mhm.
somebody needs me, I can just go, I'll be there in a second.
I'm right here.
I'm here. Yeah. Yeah.
If someone wants to,
Beam me up, Scotty.
exactly, exactly.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, exactly. For the past couple of weeks, I've been binge watching those because it's just, honestly, I prefer much more the older movies than the current ones. So I just watched those the other night. I was watching a Western from the 60s. I found those movies much more engaging, much more interesting than the current one, just to be honest,
Yeah. Oh, I'm very much a musicals lady. Again, where the ladies are the ladies and the men are
Hmm.
the men.
Oh, yeah.
That's me. My favorite of all time has to be The King and I.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, all the musicals. I'm a real romantic at heart. I love to see the man sweeping the lady off her feet, and you
Same
know,
here.
yeah,
I love like Frank Sinatra, Carlos Jobim, and all those legends.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you
Absolutely.
know that's fantasy, I suppose, but I wish it was real.
Yes. Yes. Oh, well, I mean, that's awesome. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
They can either connect with me via my website, which is simple, carolynwellington.com. Or they can connect me via email, which is info@carolynwellington.com. It's so easy. Or you can connect with me on any of the social media platforms. Facebook, which is, if you go to my group, it is a private group, and we're keeping it private because people feel safe. It's like their little safe haven. So they can go to the group, and that's Inspiration for a Better Life. So it's Carolyn
Okay.
Wellington, Inspiration for a Better Life. But the best way is probably through the website. There is a contact page on there. Just
Okay.
make sure in the message that you write what you're contacting me about. Because I do get people just sending me the names and I'm having to email them back to say, what are you contacting me about? So,
Okay. Just writing this down. Okay. And do you have any parting tips for people listening to?
yes. you've listened to this this podcast. I hope you've taken something from it. You know, it doesn't matter if it's just a small snippet, and it doesn't matter if it's a lot. But, you know, if you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, I really want to do something with my life. I am fed up of where I am right now. I want you to start today. And if it means starting today by getting in contact with me, go ahead and do it, because we can have a chat. You know, we'll have a 30-minute consultation or a discovery call, as I know some people call it, just to see where you are in life. You know, it's up to you to make the change. It's not up to somebody else. So start today.
Wonderful. I'll definitely put that in the show note to get in touch with you, because I can see that you have a keen desire, authentic desire to really help people, speaking from the heart. I can see that. That's this genuineness that is lacking in this world. So thank you for that. Listen, Carolyn, it's been an absolute honor, a pleasure, and a blast talking to you. You're an absolute legend. I mean, we can talk for hours and hours. We kindred spirit, and I can feel it. It's despite the distance, the beautiful heart. You're a true, not only a leader with a heart, but an enlightened soul. I can see that. So yeah, we can talk for hours and hours, but you know, we gotta keep moving on. We'll definitely do a follow up in a few months, especially once my product is launched and once you made the move to Phoenix, to see how things are evolving. And yeah, that would be fun too. And also, I wanna get back. I mean, I wanna know what is a day that is a 10 for you.
Oh, a 10's a long way off. A 10's a long way off. But as I say, once you get there, you've got to stay up there.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for your time. I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. We'll definitely keep in touch. Have a wonderful day and stay safe, stay blessed. God bless. Take care.
And thank you very much for having me on your show. Truly, truly appreciate it. And you take care of yourself, and everybody else out there, take care of yourself.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Okay.